هموطنان گرامی، عرض سلام و ادب از صفحه جامعه-سیاست افغانستان در خدمت شما هستیم. حضور مهمانان گرامی هر یک استاد شهرانی و جناب آقای حسینی در خدمت مهمان خارجی، یعنی از کشور پاکستان، سابق رئیس جنرال درانی، در رابطه با تحولات و فعل و انفعالاتی که یکی دو روز است در پاکستان رخ داده. میخواهیم موضوع را از داخل و از عمق سیاست پاکستان، منطقه و جهان به بحث بگیریم، ببینیم که در پاکستان چی میگذرد، اتفاقات احتمالی چه تبعات در داخل پاکستان، در کشورهای همسایه، منطقه و جهان خواهد داشت. حضور هر یک از مهمانان گرامی را خوش آمد میگوییم. از جناب آقای حسینی میخواهیم که ضمن خوش آمدگویی به مهمان مرکزی ما جناب جنرال درانی، ابتدا ازشان بخواهیم یک تحلیل از اوضاع میدانی اکنون با هموطنان عزیز ما در افغانستان و یا احتمالاً در پاکستان یا در هر جای از نقاط جهان که هستند به توضیح و تشریح بگیرند.
Dear fellow countrymen, I would like to start the interview, and in this interview here is Professor Mr. Shahranī and also Mr. Hussaini as interpreter. We are going to interview Mr. General Nadir Durrani, and in the beginning we would like him to give us an analysis of the current situation in Pakistan.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to be once again your guest. As far as Pakistan's situation is concerned, I'll try and sum it up in a couple of sentences. I think we were heading in this direction for a long time. It didn't happen all of a sudden. For the last 60, 70 years, this was the curve because of, let's say, the imbalance of power between various institutions, between the rulers and the public, between very many different senses of power, and in which, of course, my own institution, the army, had played an unusually large role and ultimately turned out to be quite damaging for the country.
بله، وضع فعلی از 60 تا 70 سال به این سو در همین مسیر در حرکت بود و این به خاطر عدم تعادل در روابط قدرت در بین نهادهای مختلف جامعه پاکستان وجود داشته و از جمله خود امو نهادی که ما به او متعلق هستم در این مسئله هم درگیر است به نحو داخل است و از این خاطر این وضعیت یک وضعیت خلق ساعه نیست، بلکه ریشه در 60 سال گذشته داره و کشور در این مسیر در حرکت است که فعلا ما در او به سر میبریم.
احتمال سقوط نظام پاکستان با این تحول اخیر امکان داره؟ محتمل است؟
Considering the latest situation in Pakistan, do you think there is a possibility that the institution, the government as a whole collapses?
I think the chances certainly are there, but it is more likely that because of the stake that all of them have, the government, the opposition, and the army, and the establishment, that they will try to manage it as best as possible and would not let it collapse, because that would mean another phase. That would mean failure. It is possible. It is certainly not, a remote possibility. But as of now, it seems that it will not happen. Collapse of state in the sense that, it happened long time ago. The state did collapse. And the functioning is mostly now in the hands of various actors, including the public. The state has not been very effective. But in that sense, yes, it might have collapsed long time ago. But when we understand today that because of certain things, the state or the government will be sent packing, it will be replaced by either an interim government or the military. That chance does not seem very good, very likely.
بله احتمالش هست، ولی با توجه به اینکه گروه‌های مختلف در ارتباط با سقوط نظام متضرر میشن و اینا منافعشان در هی است که از این وضعیت جلوگیری کنن، بنابراین احتمالش من محتمل میدانم، ولی در عین حال گروه‌های مختلف دستن در کار جلوگیری از همچون یک وضعیتی هستند و باید بگویم که در ارتباط با این وضعیت فعلی خب عوامل بوده و این عوامل در این وضعیت تاثیرگذار بوده و در عین حال کوشش میشه که با یک حکومت موقت و یا حاکمیت نظامی ها از این وضعیت جلوگیری شود. May I request Professor Shahrani that in case I forget any very important and major matter in translation, I would like him to please correct me or even mention the main points in case I miss, because it's a direct translation.
You're doing beautifully. You don't need to worry. I think all the main points are taken care of. There's no problem, really.
Yes, please.
تشکر. ایشان در عمق سیاست پاکستان در 40-50 سال اخیر بودن. میشه واضح بگن در حال حاضر پاکستان چه کس یا کسانی مدیریت میکنن؟ علل خصوص در پسا عزل عمران خان، یعنی 7 ماه اخیر پاکستان در اختیار کی هست؟ کی مدیریت میکنه؟
You have been deep inside the politics of Pakistan in the last 40 to 50 years. Would you please tell us who is running Pakistan, especially since post dismissal of Imran Khan? Who is ruling the country?
As far as the dismissal of Imran Khan was concerned, let me just tell you about, my personal view of that government and of that person. I was not very fond of him. I think that he'd been trying to come to power with the help of the military for a long time. He wooed very many military, rulers, but finally it happened 2018 that that time the army chief, General Bajwa, sponsored his rise to power.
General Bajwa?
He helped him to power.
Okay, yes, he helped him, sure. در ارتباط با آقای عمران خان ما طرفدار همچی یک وضعیت و برخورد نبودم، طرفدار از این نبودم که ایشان از کار برکنار شود، معزول شود و اتفاقا عمران خان با کمک نظامی ها به قدرت رسید و آقای جنرال باجوا هم به ایشان کمک کرد.
In those 3.5 years that he was the prime minister, he actually went back on all the promises that he had made to the people on corruption, on certain matters of foreign policy, on reforms. I mean, he did not. And therefore, when he was sent home, or the no confidence motion against him, which probably was also again supported by General Bajwa, who knew that his project Imran Khan had failed. When it succeeded, I was under the impression that the people must have learned enough number of lessons, and after that they would do what was under the circumstances the best thing to do, handle the economy for the sake of the people, to the benefit of the people, and will try and resist from certain, practices which I had alluded to, that these people were never people's friendly, that they will do it, but they did not.
از سال 2018 که عمران خان به قدرت رسید، در 3.5 سال گذشته عمران خان از وعده‌هایی که کرده بود عقب نشینی کرد و این معنا که ایشان گفته بود که من بر علیه فساد اداری مبارزه میکنم، اصلاحات به وجود میارم، حکومت قانون، اما این صورت نگرفت. بنابراین به یک نحوه من هم یک ذهنیت متفاوت پیدا کردم. جنرال باجوا هم در این مورد تاکید نظر کرد و در نتیجه به خاطر جلوگیری از وضعیت که رو به وخامت داشت یک تغییرات به وجود آمد و این بیشتر به خاطر عملکردهای خودشان بودند.
به عنوان یک سیاستمدار کونکار آیا ملاقات نزدیک با جنرال باجوا و عمران خان داشتن در این اواخر؟
As a general who is involved in politics, have you made any meeting with General Bajwa recently?
I will talk about Bajwa a little later, but let me just, bring the present situation to an end, because on Bajwa and military interference, I have plenty to say.
شما اجازه بدین که من اول موضوع قبلی را تکمیل کنم، بعداً به مسئله آقای جنرال باجوا میپردازیم. در او ارتباط هم من گفتنی‌های زیادی دارم.
You see, the performance of the present government was not the only factor that went to Imran Khan's favor. His popularity was more because after he was removed from power, he played two cards very well. The anti-military and the anti-American. Both are popular here in Pakistan. So I was thinking that possibly because of this, now that he's become popular and he's given voice to the people, there might be hope that people will follow this line because of this, and that will bring about a positive change.
عمران خان دو کارت به یک نحو نادرست استفاده کرد. یکی کارت ضدیت با ارتش و دیگر کارت ضدیت با امریکا و چنین میپنداشت که این دو مسئله باعث جلب توده‌ها به طرفش میشه.
It does not seem to have happened that way. The last few days one has seen that ever since he was arrested, his people, instead of building on that positive image, they've gone in for destruction of certain things as if people were now out of control. And so I am not sure how it is going to unfold from now onwards, but to me it does not seem good.
ولی روند جریانات در روزهای اخیر طبق میل ایشان پیش نرفت، به این معنا که یک تعداد افرادی که یا نفرایی که طرفدارشان بود از کنترل خارج شدند و در مسیر تخریب کشور گام گذاشتند. گروهایی که ازشان حمایت میکرد در مسیر تخریب کشور گام گذاشتند.
Now back to that question about Bajwa and the role of the military. I never met him, but I did send a message when he was trying to, do the so-called political engineering 2018, trying to bring Imran Khan to power. And my message was, don't do it. Militaries, all such efforts have failed, have backfired. And I will explain to you why I believe that.
ما آقای باجوا را ملاقات نکردیم ولی برش نوشتم که خودت یعنی در ارتباط با عمران خان دوباره اقدام به قدرت رساندن از او نکن. تمامی تلاش های نظامی ها در ارتباط با این موضوع به ناکامی مواجه شده و حالا من توضیح میدم که چرا به ناکامی مواجه شده و چرا تأثیرات برعکس داشتن.
اگر اجازه بدید
منظورشان در سال 2018 بود، یعنی در سال 2018 امی چی را توصیه را برای جنرال باجوا کرده بوده که در وقت نکنن نمیکارن.
اگر اجازه باشه پروفسور صفحه شهرانی سهم بگیرن که در ابعاد مختلف به موضوع بپردازیم به خاطر که از یک خط پیش نریم. جناب پروفسور صفحه شهرانی، ضمن سلام و خوش آمدید دوباره. شما هم چیزی که لازم میبینید در رابطه با تحولات پاکستان با مهمان مرکزی ما جناب جنرال اسد درانی رئیس اسبق پایسای پاکستان صحبت داشته باشید، بعد پیش میریم.
Yes, I wanted to ask General Seb a question about what is this fight in Pakistan about? Is it about a person such as Imran Khan? And what about him is so important to Pakistanis that they should go through what we're witnessing? Or is it about something else that he stands for? And if he stands for something, what could that be?
No, I don't think it is about any particular person. Personalities do matter. And for many people right now, actually they think that regardless of what has happened, the majority right now does believe that Imran Khan may be a better choice than the others two, because the other two have been tried for a long time, and against them certain charges of corruption, because all the other main parties have had 2 or 3 turns, and people seem to be pretty disappointed. As far as Imran Khan is concerned, I have told you that I may not have been very excited about him because of certain reasons, but this is a phenomena that I may not be able to explain. Why do some other people believe that despite of the fact that he never fulfilled any of his promises, that he was repeatedly doing the so-called U-turns, that he had developed a habit of going back on his words, that he was riding on the military's coattails, but when he was dismissed, he went after the military. If despite that, people are still of the view that he's the one that will be the new Messiah, some of them, I have a problem either understanding that or explaining that, except that maybe there is a cult following that he has developed, and that is why it happens. But just, that last bit, the battle is for power, not as much for the military. Oh, sorry, not for anything else.
بفرمایید استاد، شما خودتون سوال و جواب ترجمه کنید.
شما ترجمه بکنین.
شما بفرمایید، من گوش میکنم. همین قسمت ترجمه کنید.
من از جنرال پرسان کردم که امی غوغایی که ما فعلا در پاکستان میبینیم درباره چی است؟ آیا درباره یک فرد است مثل عمران خان، یا ای که کدام موضوعات دیگری برنامه‌ای است که اونا دارن که مردم درباره از اونا به اصطلاح در این حالت فعلی هستن؟ جوابشان این بود که اونا فکر نمی کنن که درباره یک فرد بوده باشه، با وجودی که این فرد آقای عمران خان در اوایل بعضی وعده‌ای را داده بود که شما هم به اشاره کردین که به هیچ کدامش وفا نکرد. در حقیقت اینا رو میگن همیشه ای در حالتی چی بوده، به اصطلاح یوترن که میگن، یعنی بازگشت. نه یوترن چی میگن؟
عقب نشینی. بله،
عقب نشینی. یعنی عقب نشینی به معنی که یعنی کاملا تغییر جریان، تغییر و چیزی را که وعده بر ضد از او کار کردن. دیگه میگن که البته این موضوع کدام موضوع خاصی دیگری که فعلا بتانیم ما بگیم مطرح بوده باشن نیست، اما یک کالت میگن، یعنی یک چی میگیم، پشت یک نفر
کش خشونت،
یعنی طرفداری از یک فرد به حیث یک فرد، به حیث یک کالتی که یعنی او را جذاب برای خود جلوه میتن، عقبی از او میرن. همونطور یک چیزی در بعضی کسا در مابین در پاکستان دیده میشه به ارتباطی آقای عمران خان، اما به صورت کل هنوز هم موضوع بسیار واضح نیست و میگه خودش هم که من طرفدار یادم نبودیم، از اولم نبودم، حالی هم نیستم و دلایلی هم وجود داره که من نمیتونم به تفصیلی از اونا در اینجا دست بزنم.
تشکر بسیار.
جناب آقای حسینی، خود شما میتونستم بگیرم. من سوال دارم، میخوایم دوستا هر کدام به ابعاد مختلف موضوع بپردازیم.
Yes, Mr. Darani, considering the fact that Pakistan was established on the basis of creating a Muslim country, and especially Allama Iqbal, who was the founder, In your previous interview with us, you were admiring General Mustafa Ataturk, who was a very anti-Islam and Muslim person. How come a senior general from such a Muslim country which carries the title of Islamic Republic of Pakistan is defending, admiring seriously General Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, and at the same time, the same general, you yourself, are supporting very radical Islamic groups like Gulbuddin Hikmatyar, Taliban, who are creating a very extremist image of Islam in public?
I think there is plenty of contradiction in the premise. I personally, regardless of whether the country was created on the basis of Islam or to give more autonomy or protection to the Muslims of the Muslim majority areas, or personally, I believe that Jinnah was using separation or independence as a card to get more rights for the Muslim, but that is another discussion. I think once a country gets created, it has to be run on certain principles of statecraft, which does not mean that an irreligious or a secular person cannot do it better than a person who follows, strictly the religious teachings. Once this is translated, I'll come back to this. Yeah.
در مقدمه که گفته شد من تناقضات را احساس میکنم، از جمله ای که اساساً این موضوع قابل بحث است و یا از نظر من مورد تایید نیست که پاکستان مبتنی بر ارزش‌های اسلامی تأسیس شده باشه به خاطر اکثریتی که اونا رأی مسلمان ها باشه و اونا بتونن که یک کشور بر این مبنا توسط یک فرد دقیقاً عامل به اسلام مدیریت کنه و یا به یک منطقه دست پیدا کنه که اکثریتشون مسلمان ها باشن. و من تو فکر میکنم که حتمی نیست که این کشور توسط یک فرد دیندار به مفهوم دقیق کلمه مدیریت شود، بلکه یک فرد با افکار سکولار و غیر یعنی دینی و مذهبی در امور حکومتی هم میتونه که مدیریت شود و توضیحات دیگه هم دارم که بیان میکنم. Yes, please.
Before coming to Afghanistan, very quickly, in India, which was supposed to be a secular country right from the beginning, its constitution says so. Nowadays, for the last about, well, actually not nowadays, for the last about 7-8 years, 2014 it started, so it's going to be 10 years, they have a government which is extremely religious in that sense, radically, Hindutva is their ideology, and it seems to be having a good majority there, regardless of what it happens otherwise, but majority of the people seem to be voting for it time and again, and actually they are more, so they have been strengthened in their belief that if anyone was going to, save India, it would be the Hindutva ideology. Once you have translated that, I'll come to Afghanistan.
کشور هندوستان اگر ما شما فکر کنیم با در نظر داشت قانون اساسی او کشور هم و با در نظر داشت از اینکه از سال 2014 به این سو یک حکومت با اکثریت که با اندیشه و آموزه های هندویسم تاکید دارد تأسیس شده و امروزه ما شاهد از این هستیم که این کشور توسط همچو یک عقیده مدیریت میشه. و من توضیحات بیشتری هم دارم. Yes, please.
As far as Afghanistan is concerned, it was never about, the leaning of any leader or any group. The criterion was simple, whether the Soviets come in or the Americans are there. All those groups who would resist the foreign occupation had the sympathy and very often the support also from Pakistan. And there is a reason I'll explain it just now.
و اما در ارتباط با افغانستان فرق نمیکنه که اشغالگر روسا باشه یا امریکایی‌ها، مهمی است که وقتی مقاومت صورت میگیره این مقاومت به نحو مورد توجه ما قرار داره و ما در این راستا اقداماتی میکنیم. So you want to support the resistance against the foreign occupation.
The reason I'll give you now, you see, I am old enough to have been part of 2 wars against India, 65 and 71. They both took place before the Soviet occupation.
من ناظر جنگ 65 1965 و 1971 در ارتباط با هندوستان بودیم پیش از تجاوز روسا به افغانستان. ولی ما در ارتباط با اشغال 2 کشور وارد عمل شدیم و حمایت کردیم از مقاومت بر علیه اشغالگران در افغانستان. Yes, please.
So in the Zahir days, for example, we have had our, friendly differences, neighborly differences. On certain things one would agree, on certain would not. There had been even clashes. But whenever the wars took place, the message from Kabul always was, you have a big problem on the eastern border. You do not have to worry about the western borders. We will make sure that during your problem with India, the western border, call it the Afpak border or the Durand line, it will remain at peace. And the reason was, I'll come to the reason after it has been translated.
Okay. ما این تصور داشتیم که از طرف مرزهای شرقی بحرانی که بود، تنشی که بود، این به یک نحو مدیریت شود و در این برابر خطر از طرف
در دوره ظاهرخان
بله دوره ظاهرخان بله با یعنی در اون مرز تنشی که داشتیم یک تمرکزی داشتیم و در عین حال می‌خواستیم که از طرف مرزهای غربی خود که بین افغانستان پاکستان است یا هم خط دیورند مطمئن باشیم و احساس خطر نکنیم.
تشکر. اگر ممکنه در یک بخش پاسخ‌ها را جمع کنن، سوالات زیاد است. استاد شهرانی هم سهم بگیرن. استاد شما بفرمایید. من چند تا سوال آماده کردم بعد از صحبت‌های شما می‌خوام پرسید.
I wanted to ask you, General, something about the structure of political culture, I suppose, in Pakistan, and how that might be responsible for the crises that we are witnessing. That is, while it is run by institutions, there is the military institution, ISI is an institution, the political parties is institutions, and of course the parties is the other institutions. But these institutions seem to be structured in a parallel fashion without coming together in a sort of common purpose as such. How does that perhaps, and also each of them are run by individuals, by prominent persons. So in other words, you have both person-centeredness and institution-centeredness. How is this structure contributing to what's happening in Pakistan?
I think that's a very good point. The imbalance in institutions, that is the core problem why it could not become a functional state or a functional democracy. Even a functional state, to have a functional state, you should have certain balance between executives and the judiciary and then the and the elected people or the state instrument, the executives. I mean, all those institutions, if they are doing their own work in their own sphere, and none of them is allowed to, go berserk and exercise extraordinary control, things work. In our case, it was not the one. And that's why I said, primarily, I think it was because of the larger than life role of the army. It may have had its historical reasons. It had, immediately after partition also a reason, because when it got divided and the Kashmir problem came up, then military played a role. But the fact is, that right from the beginning, this military institution, especially the army, exercised so much of control that the other institutions took a back seat. They did not function.
Mhm.
And on top of that, I mean,
May I translate this part, General?
Yes,
So we
yes,
can come
yes.
back.
Yeah, sure. After that.
سوال من بود که در پاکستان برخلاف افغانستان یا بسیار جای دیگه نهادهای معتبری وجود داره در ساختار سیاسیشان که باید میتونست امی مملکت و اصلاح به یک بیلانسی سیاسی می آورد، مثلا نهادی فوج یا نظامیا، نهادی آیسای، نهادی احزاب سیاسی، اینا همه ایشان ارگانهای هستند که باید و در جوامع دیگری که وجود داره اینا باعث آوردن یک تناسبی سیاسی در جامعه میشن و میتونن جامعه را به یک شکل خوبی اداره بکنن. چرا در پاکستان این واقع نشده و چرا در هر کدامی از این نهادها بازم افراد مطرح بودن تا خودی نهادها؟ جوابشان این بود که درست میگی، همین نهادها در جامعه پاکستان وجود داشته، اما اینا هر کدامشان سر خود به اصطلاح کار کردن، برای خود کار کردن. چی نبوده، یک تناسب قدرت در مابین نهادها وجود نداشته و بالخصوص نهادی فوج یا نظامیا قدرت بیشتری را برای خود کردن و اصطلاح ادعا کردن و از او استفاده کردن، از او لحاظ نگذاشتن دیگر نهادها وظایف خود به شکلی که لازم است در پاکستان یا در اداره پاکستان، در سیاست پاکستان انجام بدن. Please go ahead.
Actually, and the things get worse when, you know, a powerful institution like the army decides to play politics. You select people to get elected right from the beginning, whether it was Bhutto or Nawaz Sharif and then now Imran Khan. And those people then become dependent on you and they want you to continue supporting them. You need them to run the government. They need you to remain in power. So you are selecting the prime minister, and the prime minister, when it comes to their turn, because according to the constitution, he or she, the prime minister, the chief executive, will select the next army chief. And so they are looking for an army chief who will spare their throne. They are not looking at the merit. They are looking for someone who can be, you know, may seem sympathetic.
Thank you. Can I translate this part? جوابشان ایسته که میگن ببینید قدرت نظامی ها بیشتر بوده و اینمی بیشتر بودن قدرت نظامی ها باعث اخلال در فرهنگ سیاسی یا در تعاملات سیاسی در پاکستان شده. وقتی که قدرت فوج زیاد بوده، اونا خواستن یک کسی را پیدا بکنن که او بتونه رئیس حکومت باشه، صدر اعظم حکومت باشه و برای از او اینا رأی گرفتن و اونا را یعنی مطمئن ساختن و مطمئن شدن که باید اونا ریاست حکومت یا صدارت به دست داشته باشن. وقتی که صدر اعظم آمد، اونا در تلاش امی بودن که چطور بتونن که امی حمایتی نظامی ها را نگاه بکنن که تا اونا در قدرت بوده باشن. و بسیاری وقتایی طور شده که صدر اعظم ها تعیین کننده چیف اف استاف میگن، اما به اصطلاح مقتدرترین کسی در فوج پاکستان، اونا در حقیقت انتخاب میکنن یا نامزد میکنن.
رئیس ارکان حرب مثل که میگن،
رئیس ارکان حرب، هر چیزی که میگن در پاکستان یعنی چیف اف استاف میگن، رئیس ارکان حرب بوده باشه. ولی او را میگه این در اینجا یک تعاملی به میان آمده که قدرت سیاسی با قدرت نظامی هر دویشان همدیگر را تقویت کرده رفتن، یعنی هر دویشان یک وابستگی بسیار نزدیکی با هم دیگر داشتن. اینمی رابطه وابستگی است میگه که باعثی امی تشنجای پاکستان شده در سیاست.
و شایسته سالاری معیار نبودن.
شایسته سالاری حرفا که یعنی چی مهارتی داره، چی کاری کرده میتونه مطرح نبوده، فقط نگه داشتن قدرت هم توسط فوجی ها و هم توسط سیاسی ها در تعاملی چی بوده، هم دیگر به اصطلاح نگهداری و از هم دیگر حمایت و یک وابستگی بسیار مغلقی است که به میان آمده. Okay, درانی.
So if one is lucky and you have selected the right man as the army chief, he will not take over, he'll take a back seat. If you are not, if you are going to go for, somewhere else down the ladder, and that chap invariably has turned out that he creates, because of his capabilities, because of his preferences, he creates what we call a hybrid system. One knows who must take the responsibility, whether it's the army or the civilian ones, and they can always blame each other. So this is actually the core problem why our politics has been so lopsided.
اینمی ساختاری وابستگی نظامی ها با سیاسی ها میگه که وقتی که یک کسی یک رئیس ارکان حرب انتخاب کرده از جمله سیاسی ها، یک کسی را انتخاب کرده که او نخواهد که مثلا حکومت یک طرفه بکنه یا نگذاره حکومت کار خود بکنه و عوضی صدر اعظم به اصطلاح کاری از او را بکنه. او رفته کنار، از عقب ششته مانده سیاسیون هرچی که میخواستن بکنن و باز وقتی که شرایط تغییر کرده، کسی که از جنرال های دیگه که مثلا خوش نبودند این شرایط، اونا باز خود به اصطلاح از طریق کودیتی یا هر بلای دیگه که بود خود به اصطلاح چی ساختن، مطرح ساختن و اینمی بلایی است که میگه که پاکستان به اینجا رسانده و یک نظام بسیار بسیار سالمی سیاسی نیست و عامل اساسی اینمی بدبختی پاکستان در حقیقت جنرال صاحب میگه اینمی وضع
ساختار سیاسی است.
ساختار سیاسی است.
میخواستم بپرسم، در ابتدایشان گفتن احتمال سقوط وجود داره. اگر چنین چیز اتفاق بیفته، سقوط نظام سیاسی پاکستان تأثیرش روی طالبان افغانستان به چه مقدار است؟ و آیا در پس سقوط پاکستان طالبان هم سقوط خواهد کرد؟ آیا مردم آماده ایجاد یک دولت ملی شوند؟ احتمال میدن چنین فرضیه را؟
You said that there is a possibility that the institutions, the government in Pakistan collapses. In case it happens, what do you think about the aftermath, the effects of such an incident in Afghanistan? And if that happens, do you think that after the collapse of Pakistan, there will be a popular government in Afghanistan, a government which is represented by majority of the people?
On the collapse of the country, I think I've already said that maybe the institutions have not worked, and that's why one could have said that the collapse has already taken place. However, one forgets that Pakistan is not being sustained by the state of Pakistan. I've already described, a pathetic state of people who are in power. The Pakistan has been sustained by about 90% of its people who keep working, keeping themselves out of the state's stranglehold. They are not confirmed, they are not governed by the state policies. It's a local way of doing business, the traditional way in which people find their work, the crops grow, the things get done. That means, the size of the Pakistani black or the unofficial economy is larger than its official one. It means even if there is no money coming from anywhere else, and even if the trade outside stops, there will be enough within the country to ensure that people don't die of hunger, that people have something to go by. However, the Afghanistan's, own situation is not going to be influenced to a significant effect because of what happens either in Iran or in Pakistan or in Central Asia. They have their own way of governing their country. They have their own system. And I think now one could have even said that the Afghan system is stabilizing and ours was destabilizing. So it's not going to be dependent on what happens here to a significant effect. To some effect, of course, always happens, whether it is in Afghanistan, the effect on Pakistan or Pakistan, but it does not mean that anything major is going to change. And just before ending, let me also say, right now, there are other countries, very powerful countries like China, Russia, Iran, who are also interested in Afghanistan because it's not only about Afghanistan, it's about the new great game between China and the United States.
مدت ها هست که نهادها در پاکستان دچار مشکلی جدی در مدیریت کشور است، ولی پاکستان توسط این نهادها در طول این سالیان متمادی تقریبا 90 سال پاسداری نشدند، بلکه پاسدار پاکستان مردم پاکستان همون 90% بوده که اونا در شهرهای خودشان به صورت محلی امورات مدیریت میکنن، کار میکنن، ولوی که جوان بودن، پیر شدن و اونا میتونن که این کشور همچنان سر پای خودش نگه دارن و زراعت و کشت و کار همچنان ادامه داشته باشه. در ارتباط با افغانستان قابل یادآوری است که اوضاع خب کشورها در یکی دیگه تاثیر داره، اما افغانستان در مسیر ثبات قرار داره و به طرف ثبات پیش میره و برعکس پاکستان بی ثبات میشه. تاثیرات یک کشور بالای کشور دیگه به صورت نسبی دخیل است، اما اینطور نیست که امورات پاکستان در امورات افغانستان با در نظر داشته وظیفه‌ای یک تاثیر بسیار قابل توجه و متنابعی داشته باشه، بلکه تاثیر محدود و نه چندان بزرگی هست و قابل یادآوری است که جریانات سیاسی در منطقه مخصوصا در بین پاکستان، افغانستان، ایران، اینا در ارتباط با مناسبات قدرت بین چین و امریکا تا اندازه تعریف میشه و به این شکل قضایا سمت و سو پیدا میکنن.
تشکر. استاد شهرانی بفرمایید.
I wanted to ask you, General Seb, given the description you have given about Pakistan, that 90% of the population are basically running their own affairs and only 10% is managed by the state, do you suggest that Pakistan does not really need a state? It can run without one? Is it extra? It's unnecessary?
Sometimes I believe, I wish the state were to take a back seat. I don't say it very seriously, lightheartedly, but I think if the state got out of the way of the people, they will work better. The things at local level will improve because then localities and those communities will take charge of their own affairs and they'll run it better. So in a sense, yes, it may happen in that way. And once the collapse takes, we will have no option but to organize ourselves in various communities and run our affairs. It is certainly not a solution to an effective state because it does mean many, many things will not happen and they had to happen in a state. But that vacuum may be filled in, God knows by whom. It's very difficult for me to speculate on that. But essentially, I would agree with this hypothesis that if the state took a back seat, stopped interfering in people's affairs, we will run those things or those affairs much better.
من پرسان کردم از جنرال صاحب که از شرحی که شما دادین به ارتباطی وضع رابطه مابین حکومت و ملت پاکستان که 90%شان مشغول کارهای خودشان هستند بدون ارتباط با دولت و یا با حکومت، آیا به این معنی است که یعنی ضرورت به حکومت در پاکستان نیست؟ پاکستان میتونه بدون حکومت به اصطلاح شرایط خود بهتر بسازه یا که بهتر دوام بده؟ جوابی از اونایی است که بله، واقعا یگان وقت میگه من فکر میکنم که وجود حکومت در پاکستان غیر ضروری است یا حتی نقش منفی داره و اگر مردم پاکستان گذاشته شوند که خودشان به اصطلاح غم خود بخورن، ممکن است که پاکستان کشوری بهتری بوده باشه از لحاظ آرامش، ممکن حتی داشتن ثروت زیادتر یا حرفا. جالبی است که اگر اجازه بدیم یک کامنتی در اینجا بکنم. من همیشه هم نوشتیم هم گفتیم راجع به افغانستان که حکومت در افغانستان باعث حل مشکلات جامعه نبوده، بلکه یک پرابلم برای جامعه بوده و همین چیزی است که اینا در حقیقت پاکستان هم میگن. یعنی حکومت در پاکستان مشکل زاست و عامل مشکلات از در جامعه تا که حلال مشکلات در جامعه. و علتش هم اینمی است که این حکومت های مردمی نیستن. حکومت های در شرایط افغانستان حکومت های کرایی هستن البته، و در پاکستان حکومت های فیودالی تا حد زیادی که اگر اجازه بدین امیر به انگلیسی همراهشون شریک شم، بعد از اون من چپ می باشم. I translated your comments, and I also shared the thought that I have often thought, in fact written about the situation in Afghanistan in something similar, where I have said the government in Afghanistan traditionally has not been a solver of the people's problems, but rather itself has been a problem to the society, and it has caused problems to the people rather than help them resolve their problems. And as such, the reason for that is that in Afghanistan we have never had a government that has drawn its legitimacy for its own people. It has been always rented regimes that they have drawn the money and also the weapons from outsiders, and as such they have been rented regimes in the service of foreigners. But in Pakistan it may be slightly different. In Pakistan it's not so much they draw their wealth from other places, but they have drawn and kept their wealth from the people in the feudal structure that used to be part of Pakistani society. The landlords and the wealthiest are still the ones who are essentially controlling and monopolizing much of the wealth, and they're the ones who run the government, and that 10% essentially steal from the rest of the, or extract, if not steal, extract from the rest of the society. And that's part of the problem perhaps in Pakistan also. I'd love to hear your comments on that, whether that is a accurate kind of analysis or there is a hole in it.
It's a fascinating discussion, and we can go around talking about, what happens there and what happened here and what is likely to happen in case of Afghanistan. To start with a light-hearted remark, I keep threatening people here, since you are not going to get your act together, so people will welcome some sort of a Talibanization of Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, those people might be brutal, but at least they'll get rid of the so-called, call it Ashrafia or the elites or these privileged classes who ignore the benefits or they ignore the plight of the people. Now I do that. If it happens, or would it be Talibanization or something else, that's still to be seen. But that I sometimes think that Afghanistan is easier to study from that point of view. Because after all, it was a functioning country as long as it remained decentralized. Mm-hmm. Different areas were looking after there. There was a symbolic Shah somewhere. People owed allegiance to him. Some policies could be made. That enlightenment, that sense of justice, the sense of unity was so good after 1747, Ahmad Shah Baba's, grand bargain. that despite all the problems, people remained committed to that country, Afghanistan. I know that some of the non-Pashtuns, if you ever ask them, are you not suffering at the hand of the majority Pashtuns? They normally say, but that's our own problem. One thing that we will never forego is the unity and the integrity of Afghanistan. Now, as far as the Taliban are concerned, this centralized rule that came after the Soviets, one was thinking it was unnatural. Bonn Accord also, created the constitution was a little centralized, and that seems to be a silly thing to do. However, regardless of what happened after 20-30 years, now we have there a highly centralized rule, and seems that they want to keep it that way. But my own reading is that considering the configuration of Afghanistan, it will not work for very long. Ultimately, Afghanistan will have to, get into a traditional mode. In 1907, the first time that I was free to write about this thing, I think the first thing that I wrote was about Afghanistan, and I said, right now I'm talking about 97, the Taliban seem to be riding high, but once they do reunify, get rid of the Northern Alliance, that would be the end of the Taliban, because the Afghans would like to have their own traditional decentralized system primarily. But that was an assessment made then. Now there are much better people like you who can say if that is going to happen or not. But since the comparison is between these two countries, I think both of us are not very well served if you have a unitary rule. If you have a rule where everything gets dictated, sitting here we should decide what type of Balochistan we should have. It's a very idiotic thing.
بله، شما ترجمه میکنید یا من ترجمه کنم؟
خیلی بفرمایید.
اینا میگن که ما برای پاکستانیا، برای قدرتمندا در پاکستان گفتیم بارها که اگر شما نتونین اوضاع و شرایط خودتان بهتر و مدیریت بکنین، مملکت ممکن است به دست طالبان بفته، به دست یعنی طالبانی شود. و میگه که کسایی که چیز هستن به اصطلاح ملاکا هستن، و ملاکا البته در پاکستان قدرتمند بودن و قدرتمند هستن، و اونا میگن همیشه در غم خودشان بودن، نه در غم مردمی عادی در پاکستان. و این یکی از دلایلی هسته که پاکستان رو به اینجا کشانده. و تفاوت ما بین افغانستان و پاکستان هم میگه در این هسته که در افغانستان قدرت، در پاکستان هم البته قدرت خواستن متمرکز باشه، یعنی یا در دستی فوجی هاست، معمولا در دست فوج بوده، در دست نظامی ها بودن، نه در دست سیاسیون. در افغانستان میگه که معمولا در طول تاریخ در وقتایی که حکومت غیر متمرکز بوده، اشاره میکنه به دوره امپراتوری درانی 1747 احمد شاه بابا و اینا تا اواخر قرن 19، میگه وضع بسیار بهتر بود وقتی که غیر متمرکز بود. وقتی که حکومت متمرکز شد یا به طرف متمرکز بودن رفت، جنجال بیشتر شد. مثلا میگه تا در وقت پادشاهی هم مناطق سرحدی نزدیک به پاکستان اصلا حکومت در اونجا وجود نداشت، یعنی مردم اداره خودشان میکردن. از اون لحاظ وضع بسیار بهتر بود. این که وضع در جاهای غیر پشتون دورتر از سرحدات چی بوده اون موضوع دیگه است میگه. اما به صورت کل میگه من اولین مقاله خود در 1997 نوشته کردم و در 1997 نوشته من این بود که در افغانستان اگر مناطق شمال غیر متمرکز، یعنی یک روش غیر متمرکز به دست میگرفتن، احتمالی از این بود که طالبان نتونن کاری بکنن و هر منطقه میتونست اداره خودشان بکنن یا شرایط یعنی کاملا متفاوت باشه که اوطور نشد میگه. و امیال هم حکومت یعنی در 40 سال 40 چند سال بنابراین که حکومت وجود نداشت به صورت عموم در مرکز غیر متمرکز رقم بود افغانستان. اما حالی متمرکزترین شرایط فعلا در تحت اداره طالبان وجود داره میگه. و این البته دوام نمیتونه پیدا بکنه. این جنرال صاحب میگه که این ممکن نیست دوام پیدا بکنه و البته بدیلی برای از این ضروره هست که به میان آورده شوه و بدیلش هم بدیل غیر متمرکز سازی است برای از اینکه حکومت ها در افغانستان بتانن اداره بهتری از مردم خود داشته باشن و شرایط جوش سیاسی را در کشور تغییر بدن. و عین چیز میگه در پاکستان هم همین ضرورت است. هر دو مملکت نمیتونن با حکومت‌های بسیار متمرکزی به اصطلاح خودشان قوی نمیتونن مملکت اداره بکنن، باید که غیر متمرکز شوند و اونمو ساختار باید چطور به میان بیایه هنوز واضح نیست که باید به میان آورده شود. و میگه در گذشته ها افغان ها نداشتن کسایی که تحلیل ها را بکنه و روی موضوعات زیادتر خودشان کار بکنن. حالی میگه تعداد زیادی هم پیدا شده در صحنه و همچنان در پاکستان هم امیدواری هست که این مسائل در آینده نزدیک راه حل‌های پیدا بکنن.
تشکر. استاد گرامی، اگر ممکنه ازشان بپرسیم احتمال تجزیه پاکستان به 3 بخش پنجاب و بلوچستان و پشتونستان وجود دارد یا خیر؟
Our host is asking General Seb, under the circumstances, is there any possibility of Pakistan dividing into 3 sections, as it were, Sindh and Punjab and the rest, or not?
Baluch.
And Baluch as well as
Pakistan, Balochistan.
Pashtun and everything, yeah.
There's again a parallel, very interesting parallel between the two countries. As I was mentioning, the various factions in Afghanistan do not want to break away from that country.
Right.
Regardless of what happens, and I have long experience of talking both to the Pashtuns and the non-Pashtuns, and they say, regardless of everything, this is the place we will say. And there is also another explanation. Where would they go? None of the neighbors of Afghanistan, whether it is Tajikistan or Uzbekistan or Iran, or for that matter, Pakistan, seem to be very keen that we should grab some part of Afghanistan, because that will exacerbate the problem. It will create more difficulties for these countries, leave aside Afghanistan. The same is true about Pakistan. There are people here like the Balochistan, I think I understood. Some of their leaders have said that very openly. All right, we haven't got, what we should have gotten because of the area, because of the minerals, because of our ethnicity, the diversity. But even then, Pakistan remains for us. And that word used was least bad option. Anything else would be worse than this. So all of them, the Balochis, the Sindhis, the Karachi, everyone is now stuck with Pakistan, because this is the place where still, leave aside Pashtuns right now in Pakistan have more than their share of population or more power in the armed forces, in business, everywhere else. Karachi is the largest Pashtun city in the world, etc. So they already have been not only integrated, but they get actually more benefits than anyone else. But the others also, they have a fairly good idea that if there is any survival for them, reasonably autonomous, if not completely autonomous, it's going to be here in Pakistan. If, God forbid, if they were to succeed and go somewhere else, like sometime, it has been talked about Balochistan, that is because of its minerals, it can survive. They know that they will be taken over along with their minerals by someone else. They will not be the rulers of that place. It will be either, United States or someone else. I don't know, China maybe, but it will not be the Baloch people. So that is the answer. Regardless of what situation exists in either country, both the countries seem to have, as of now, decided that we will remain within the geographical boundaries of the two countries.
میگن جنرال صاحب که جدایی طلبی راه حل نه با پاکستان است نه با افغانستان. افغانستان در طول اینمی جنگای بیشتر از 40 سال میگه هیچ وقت موضوع جدایی از موضوعات بسیار حاد و مهمی نبوده که مردم خواسته بوده باشند که مملکت مثلا تقسیم شود به پشتون و غیر پشتون یا به این نام و نیگه نام. میگه اگر تقسیم هم شوند به کجا میرن؟ میگه هیچ یکی از ممالک همسایه آماده نیست که مثلا قسمت های ازبکستان بگیره، تاجیکستان قبول بکنه، یا ترکمنستان، یا قسمت های غربیش ایران، یا قسمت های جنوبی و شرقیش پاکستان. میگه از اون لحاظ یعنی هیچ رای دیگه وجود نداره برای اونا. از همون لحاظ است که افغانا به صورت کل موضوع جدایی طلبی و تقسیم مملکت و حرفا را اصلا مطرح نمی کنن. میگه عین چیز به پاکستان هم تطبیق میشه. پاکستان هم میگه بله جدایی های تفاوت های وجود داره، اما تفاوت در مسائل چی نیست که جدایی فیزیکی به اصطلاح تقسیم مملکت، که بلوچ ها اگر تقسیم شوند خودشان هم میگن که ما کجا میریم، چی کده میتونیم. میگه بدترین انتخاب یعنی بدترین بهترین انتخابا برای بلوچ ها همیسته که با پاکستان ببانه. و میگه که بسیار مفادی هم داشتن اونا. پشتونا رو میگه مثلا در امروز در نظام فعلی پاکستان بیشترین مفاد دارن از هر لحاظ. میگه که کراچی امروز یکی از بزرگترین شهرهای پشتوناست، یعنی اینا در پاکستان هم مقام دارن، در نظام هم میگه در نظامی مثلا خصوصا در فوج بسیار نقش دارن و در مسائل سیاسی هم دارن از اینجا. یعنی اگه اینا جدا شون کجا میرن، چی میکنن؟ از اون لحاظ میگه مثل که افغانا با افغانستان وصل هستن و نمیتونن خود از اون جدا بکنن، پاکستانی هم در عین حال به هر گروهش که سیل بکنن، سندی باشه، پنجابی باشه، بلوچ باشه، پشتون باشه، همه اینا با پاکستان وصل هستن. از پاکستان جدا شدنشان بسیار مشکل است. از اون لحاظ میگه شرایط هر دو مملکت یعنی بسیار مشابه است و راه حل هم برای یعنی از طریق جدایی وجود نداره.
تشکر. یک ساعت یک مقدار گذشت، چند تا پرسش کوتاه داریم اگر شما نکته‌ای نداشته باشید. جناب آقای حسینی، خود شما استاد شهرانی.
من چیزی ندارم دیگه. بس.
Yes, when Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was ruling Pakistan, according to some information, he was threatened by the former US Foreign Minister Henry Kissinger in regards to the development of nuclear energy in Pakistan. And later, since he didn't bow, he was eliminated by General Zia. And there is a school of thought made by some observers that the same trend is happening in Pakistan. And since Mr. Imran Khan is following an independent course of policies from the American interference in Pakistan, the Americans are interfering and they want to eliminate this independent factor. What is your observation about this comment and question? The second question is, thousands of Afghan intellectuals, Muslims, leftists, they were killed in Peshawar, in Pakistan, during Russian invasion in Afghanistan. Among them, for instance, Mr. Majro, and so many other intellectuals, scholars, people of culture, and people who were very useful in Afghanistan, and some of them might have been having some leftist ideas, but they did not deserve to be killed. But nobody was brought in justice in Pakistan. What is your response to this lack of law and order in regards to these killings, which a lot of people accuse Mr. Hikmatyar, who was doing all these atrocities?
Well, that's perhaps the little lesser problem. Killing of certain people and the intellectuals, of course, is to be condemned. And I remember correctly that Hikmatyar was the one who was accused more than anyone else. But why it did not happen or why it should have happened, and one can always talk about, the complexity or the weaknesses, limitations of an inefficient or a soft state. But your first part of question is very important for me. And whenever I say that, look, all my experience shows people may have had bad eyes on Pakistan. Enough number of enemies we've had from America to India to Israel, etc. But no one ever conspired in the sense that Bhutto has to be eliminated or Shah had to be eliminated. They may have, because conspiracies work in a different scenario, in a different way. And unless, someone from within collaborates, they do not happen. So it's so easy to conclude that they were done that. But let me take that particular example which you have given. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, because of the nuclear program, of course he was the father of the nuclear program. And if he was eliminated with Zia-ul-Haq, well, Zia-ul-Haq also, those 10 years, he ensured that the nuclear program remained safe. None of our rulers actually compromised on the nuclear program. Some people may have been soft on Kashmir policy, but on nuclear, no one did. Whether it was because of political reasons or the military or security reasons, that can be discussed. Similarly, right now, as far as Imran Khan is concerned, Imran Khan never had a policy on anything. He is the one who, when Modi revoked 370 on the 8th of July, 5th of August 2019, and we expected something to happen from here. All that Imran Khan did, renamed the road and also, drew another map. This was the only response when so much was happening. Much better responses have been given from Pakistan, sometimes not very well thought out, but much better, much more vehicles on lesser developments. So he was certainly not committed to a very big cause like Kashmir or nuclear or whatever. But when it happened, as I said, and he found that these two cards were very useful. People didn't like me, my going to Moscow. He didn't even know about that. People didn't like me to become, free of armies, Triangle Road. He never tried that for 3.5 years. He remained there and always said, it's my government, my things are being implemented. Only when he was removed, then he started talking about, not letting him go. It's a convenient excuse, as I said, in a hybrid case, it will happen. So my point is, no, from outside, the conspiracies have not been that effective, but within the country, this power play, Zia-ul-Haq, for example, he made use of that opportunity. When Bhutto was in trouble, in turmoil, he used that opportunity because people were restless. Otherwise, as far as the agreement was concerned between the government and the opposition, people who may recall at that time, it was almost done. It was only needed an odd point, and then the signatures would have been done on an agreement. Bhutto had agreed for re-election. But before it could happen, he took over. So it's not an external.
سوالی بود که هنری کسینجر ذوالفقار علی بوتو را تهدید کرده بود در ارتباط با پیشرفت انرژی اتمی در پاکستان که پاکستان نباید در هو مسیر گام بگذاره و سرانجام هم توسط جنرال ضیاءالحق به اعدام محکوم شد، برطرف شد و یک تعداد از ناظرین سیاسی معتقد هستند که فعلا دوباره تاریخ تکرار میشه و با توجه به اینکه عمران خان سیاست‌های مستقل از سیطره ایالات متحده آمریکا در پیش گرفته، دوباره همچین یک فردی که مستقلانه میخواد که گام بگذاره حذف میشه. و سوال دومی بود که در طول سالیان اشغال افغانستان توسط روسا هزاران نفر از روشنفکرها و دانشمندا، اهم از چپی و مسلمان که از افغانستان بودند در پاکستان مخصوصا پشاور کشته شدند. مخصوصا آقای حکمتیار متهم به این قتل‌ها و کشتارهاست. چرا پاکستان در این مورد هیچ کسی را به دادگاه نکشاند و محکوم نکرد؟ ایشان در ارتباط با جواب سوال دوم در ابتدا گفتند که بله همچین چیزی را ما هم در جریان هستم که حکمتیار محکوم اولی بوده در ارتباط با این قتل ها و کشتارها و در این قسمت خب ابهامات هست و جواب مشخص ارائه نکردن. در قسمت مسئله اولی گفتن که قضیه اینطور نیست، تئوری توطئه در این مشاهده یا این تحلیل و این نظر یا سوال احساس میشه و جنرال ضیاءالحق خودشون ادامه دهنده سیاست پیشرفت انرژی اتمی در پاکستان بود و آقای عمران خان تو نبوده که بر اساس او چیزی که گفته شد برطرف شده بوده باشه، بلکه ایشان اصولا نظری نداشت که اون نظرت به مرحله اجرا بگذاره، یک سیاست مشخص و دقیق نداشت، بلکه عده اکثرش مثلا بعضی از سرک ها را نامگذاری میکرد، نقشه ها را تجدید میکرد و میخواست که از اون دو کارت که قبلا گفتیم که یکی ضدیت با ارتش و دیگری امریکا استفاده کنه و مردم به طرف خود بکشانه، سفری به روسیه داشت و میخواست که بدون ملاحظه ارتش به یک سلسله اقدامات بپردازه که اینا هم مؤثر واقع نشد و همچی یک وضعیت به وجود آمد.
بفرمایید.
من یک سوال بسیار کوتاه داشتم. جنرال صاحب، sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a short question. This crisis began right after the Chinese foreign minister was in Islamabad with a triangle meeting, I suppose, of Pakistan, China, and Afghanistan there. And there were certain things that China promised to the government. And then within days after the Chinese foreign minister was home, this crisis of snapping Imran Khan from the court and taking to jail happened by the government. And then, of course, the rest is a story that we all know. Was this a coincidence, or there was something that Chinese had asked of the government or told the government or some such? What is your feeling, I mean, your views on that?
Well, the honest answer has to be that I do not know.
Okay.
The other one is, of course, that whatever one knows about the Chinese, I don't think they get involved in certain things. But let's say if they were for some reason not happy, because during Imran Khan's period, there was a problem with the CPAC, the corridor, the work was slower. I do not know if it has picked up now, but there were a few people with Imran Khan who were, it seemed that they were not happy. They wanted to renegotiate. They made the Chinese unhappy. But as far as Imran Khan's arrest is concerned, I think it was in the making for a long time. Because they were waiting, when does he go and cross a certain line? Now he had started taking the name of some serving generals. Now that he was instigating certain people, I think the people were just waiting for him to, let's say, not dig so much deep, but give them the opportunity where it could be nabbed and put there, because that seems to be the present government's policy. Nawaz Sharif disqualified, Imran Khan must be disqualified, and then we will see. Because if Imran Khan is not disqualified and he contests the election, the chances of the present government become very slim. So there may have been that political expediency because of which they have done. And I would say that that was the main reasons and not the Chinese visit. Coincidence it can be. The Chinese visit we were thinking was essentially because of Afghanistan, because I think that aspect had been ignored by our two governments for a long time. Especially what made people like me very angry was that now that it has happened, our job has always been, I may have mentioned that in the earlier show program, that after the Soviet foreign occupation goes, the main task of the Pakistani establishment is try and bring about reconciliation between various Afghan factions. And right now, because we were together in Dushanbe, the message that I got, and I've conveyed it here, that look, the message I got was, the rest of the world seems to have abandoned. They said, well, at that time for 20 years, whatever we were involved, but now we want to wash our hands off Afghanistan. Remember, Ambassador November, what he said? And of course, the so-called international community making excuses about human rights and women's rights, but saying, we're sorry, it's too troublesome. We will not get involved. And that is the reason that I think essentially it was Pakistan's duty to get into the act, try and bring about the reconciliation of the groups in Dushanbe and the others, because Afghanistan will only be stable when that grand bargain of Hamasha Baba, or let's say, when all the factions are on board, only then it gets stabilized. Unlike Pakistan, many other countries, even smaller factions in Afghanistan can create such problems that the country remains short of, that stability. There is no big Pakistan army there who will keep control of smaller factions. We cannot do it in our country, but sometime a smaller group we can. Not for long though, but in Afghanistan it cannot be done. And that was the role that I thought was missing. And if the Chinese do agree, like they have done in case of Iran and Saudi Arabia, and it is also in their interest, if they do a bigger role in Afghanistan, I think one should be very happy.
سوال من به این بود که وزیر خارجه چین در اسلام آباد بود، فقط یکی دو روز قبل از اینکه زندانی ساختن عمران خان و چیزا صورت گرفت. من گفتم آیا یک چیزی همونطور چی میگیم تصادفی بود یا اینکه کدام چیزی وزیر خارجه چین برای حکومت پاکستان گفته بود که چی بکنن یا چی نکنن. جوابشان طولانی بود، اما به صورت کلی گفتن که ممکن است یک تصادف بوده باشه. چینایی‌ها در مسائل داخلی کشورها قدر دست نمیزنن، علاقمند نیستن و میگن که البته اونا در قسمت همی پروژه بزرگی یک راه و یک کمربندشان که از پاکستان مگذره و از افغانستان به طرف غرب، در بعضی مسائلی که عمران خان در وقتی که در حکومتش بود که باید این دوباره چی شود، بازرسی شود و توافقاتی که مابین چین و پاکستان هست بازنگری شود، به او چینایی‌ها خوش نبودن. به صورت کل میگم ما این دلیل نمیشه که حکومت فعلی پاکستان گفته باشن که شما او را برین زندانی بسازین. و باز به ارتباط مسائل پاکستان و افغانستان اشاره کردن که گفت به مو کنفرانسی چی میگیم امنیت هرات که در دوشنبه گرفته شده بود سال نوامبر سال گذشته که ما و جنرال سبردوی ما در اشتراک داشتیم، اونجا بعضی چیزهای گفته شده بود به ارتباط بسیاری کشورهای دیگه که در افغانستان فعلا به اصطلاح فعال هستند. همگی مسائل روی چی اشاره میکنن، حقوق بشر، حقوق زنا، این مسائل میگه. پاکستانیا به صورت کل در وقتی که در افغانستان جنگ بر ضد بیرونیا بوده باشه مقاومت دارد چی میکنن، کمک میکنن تا که قدرت‌های خارجی از افغانستان بیرون بره. اما بعد از اینکه او صورت گرفت علاقه پاکستان در این است که افغانا را با هم نزدیک بسازن، افغانا با هم یک جا کار بکنن و مشکلات خود به اصطلاح رفع بکنن. و اشاره میکنه بازم به دوره احمد درانی که اگر افغانا بتانن زیر یک چتر جمع شوند و یک حکومت فراگیر بسازن که حتی گروه های بسیار کوچک هم در افغانستان میگه میتونن باعث مشکلات بسیار کلان شوند، از اون لحاظ باید یک حکومتی ساخته شود که این مسائل حقوق بشری و حرفا چیزهای بسیار بزرگ نیست، اما مسائلی که آوردنی که امیکلی گروه های مختلف تحت یک چتر و آوردن یک حکومت که فراگیر بوده باشه و مردم در او حصه داشته باشن مهمتر است. میگه ای برای پاکستان ارزش داره و پاکستانی ها میگه که ممکن است در این قسمت کاری کرده بتانن و علاقه شان هم همی است. ای که کردن یا نکردن موضوع دیگه است، اما به صورت کل میگه در منطقه امی موضوع چیز مهم است که در افغانستان خصوصا حکومت فراگیر و ملی و مردمی به میان بیایه و خودشان هم میگه من طرفداری زمین میکنم بیشتر نظر به هر چیز.
تشکر استاد گرامی. همچنان جناب آقای حسینی، من علاوه کنم به فرمایشات شما استاد که وزیر خارجه چین اظهار کرده که یک مکتوب یا یک تعهد کتبی از سرپرست وزارت خارجه طالبان مولوی متقی گرفته که جنبش اسلامی پاکستان شرقی نباید از خاک افغانستان بر علیه خاک چین یا منطقه خوزستان اسانچیان عملاتی داشته باشد. در گذشته اگر شفاهی تعهد داشتن، این بار چینیا تعهد کتبی را در اسلام آباد از سرپرست وزارت خارجه افغانستان دریافت کرده که به این معنی است که از لحاظ استراتژیکی چین در حمایت حاکمیت طالبان در هماهنگی با پاکستان نشست گرفتن و سیاست و بر اساس شرایط برد پیش میبرن. اما در مورد بمب اتمی یا انرژی اتمی پاکستان شایعات وجود داره که اصلا بمب اتمی در پاکستان وجود خارجی نداره. جناب جنرال اسد درانی یکی از شخصیت‌های در واقع استراتژیک پاکستان در استخبارات کار کردن و در عمق سیاست پاکستان حضور داشتن. بسیار شفاف توضیح بدن که چنین شایعه درست است، اصلا بمب اتمی پاکستان وجود خارجی دارد یا نه. اگر بله و نه خیر بگن همین بخش من سپاسگزار خواهم شد.
جنبش اسلامی شرق پاکستان گفته؟
اون موضوع علایده بود و اونا چیز نداره. سوال بمب اتمی را
Okay. Would you please give me a short answer in yes or no? And the question is, there is a school of thought that Pakistan doesn't possess nuclear energy or nuclear bomb. Please give us a transparent answer. Does Pakistan have a nuclear bomb?
Yes, it has. There's never been any doubt about that. After those tests in 2019, there was no one. After all, the explosions did take place. Nowadays, people even talk about the number. We may have more than India. That I do not know. But the capability was always there. The bomb was, demonstrated in 1998.
بله دقیقاً یقیناً پاکستان بمب اتمی داره و مورد امتحان هم قرار گرفت. دو دفعه تست شد. یک دفعه in 1988، یک دفعه در سال 1988 آزمایش صورت گرفت و مسلماً که پاکستان دارای بمب اتمی است.
این یا دروغ است یا راست است؟
Is it a lie or is it a truth?
No, I mean, why should anyone doubt it? I mean, I've already given the answer. In fact, people are so worried that, well, if something happens, what will happen to the bombs, etc., etc. But that's not the point. What other proof is required? I do not know. I mean, after demonstrating those explosions, you can't carry out this explosion unless you have the bomb-making capability.
شما نمیتونید که شک کنید به خاطر از اینکه امتحان و آزمایش اتمی در پاکستان صورت گرفت و امکان نداره که همچین یک آزمایش صورت بگیره بدون توانمندی در ارتباط با داشتن سلاح اتمی. چرا یک تعدادی در این مورد شک کنند؟ دیگه ای که همین حالا هم یک نگرانی وجود داره که اگر کشور دچار یک یعنی تزلزل جدی شوه، یک مشکل حاده که بدتر از این وضع باشه به وجود بیاد، سرنوشت سلاح اتمی شروع میشه. حتی نگرانی وجود داره.
تشکر. در پایان من میخواستم به عنوان خبرنگار، به عنوان نماینده مردم افغانستان یک گله از مقامات پاکستان، گرچه که جناب اسد درانی در حال حاضر سمت حقوقی ندارند ولی در سیاست پاکستان علیه حضور دارند. ملت افغانستان شدیداً از سیاست‌های پاکستان در قبال افغانستان نظر به جابجایی قدرت از سال، یعنی بعد از کودتای 7 ثور 57 8 تا رئیس جمهور و نظام در واقع 4-5 تا نظام تغییر عوض شد، جابجا شد. نقش پاکستان بسیار زیاد در واقع واضح و روشن بوده و ملت پاکستان هم از روسیه شوروی زمان تجاوز، هم از امریکا به اضافه متحدینش، علل خصوص پاکستان بسیار زیاد گلمند هستند و دیده شده که پاکستان حتی نفرین کردن. اگر اینا به اخلاق انسانی و همسایه‌داری باورمند هستند، آیا می توانند جبران مافات بکنن یا معذرت بخواین از مردم افغانستان یا کشور افغانستان به حال خودش رها کنن؟
As a representative of Afghanistan and as a journalist from this country, I would like to say that the people of Afghanistan are complaining because of the role of Pakistan in Afghanistan since the 27th of April 1979 coup d'etat. And they accuse Pakistan of a role which was not constructive for the people of Afghanistan, and even they cursed them. And there is a lot of complaint in regards to this course of action. Is there any chance to offer apologies from the side of Pakistan and say, I'm sorry, we are sorry for our action in Afghanistan, and also compensate for what they did in Afghanistan?
One has heard about these complaints, but I said that whenever Pakistan carried out any action on this, it was essentially in support of the resistance. And I've told you there is reason for this. As long as Afghanistan is master of its own destiny, it can take its own decision, it defends the interest of Pakistan, like 65, 71, despite everything, you know. And even later on during the American occupation, I heard Karzai saying, for example, if God forbid, if there is a choice to be made, he will act in favor of Pakistan. But Pakistan's policy was on this one. If it was not, pleasing, if it was not welcomed by some of the Afghans or most of the Afghans, there's hardly anything one can do about it, because the policy was to look after the interests of Pakistan so that the debris of the occupation does not fall there. My understanding was that people who were resisting the occupation, they were quite grateful to us.
What Karzai did say, sorry, what did Karzai say?
After all, there was a huge resistance to the foreign occupation also. Mujahideen against the Soviets, Taliban against us. And not only that, they ultimately, both of them succeeded. They succeeded because of their own efforts and because of the way they fought and because of the support of the large Afghan population. The Afghans must also have supported freedom fighters. If there are certain elements who were unhappy because they thought they were better off under the foreign occupation, then all that I can say is Pakistan is not likely to apologize for this thing, but say, we're sorry you didn't like our policy. But to those people who did not, nowadays, for the last 20 years, many Afghans, and one has known them because one has gone there so often, that at that time were unhappy with Pakistan policies. Right now, I think some of them have reasons to believe that Pakistan's role, in a small one, the basic thing was done by the Afghan resistance did help the country gain its freedom.
ولی با این نظر آگاهی دارم، ولی باید این در نظر داشته باشیم که پاکستان مرحله اشغال افغانستان در مقطعهای مختلف حمایت خود دریغ نکرده و کسانی که اونا مجاهدین هستند و ضد اشغال بودند از این کار ما خوشحال هستند و راضی هستند، در این حالی که یک بخش دیگه جامعه افغانستان ما درک میکنه که اونا ناراض بودند. باید تذکر بدم که در قسمت تعیین سرنوشت خب افغانستان یک مسیر را تعیین میکنه و پاکستان مسیر دیگه را و طبیعی است که ما سیاست های خود و منافع خاص خود در نظر داریم، ولی ایران میخوایم که یادآوری کنم که در قسمت افغانستان حمایتی که ما کردیم در ارتباط با نیروهای اشغالگر یک تاثیر نسبی داشته، ولی تاثیر اصلی خود مقاومت و اما جهاد مردم داشته که تانستن که در برابر اشغال خارجی مقاومت کنند. این مقاومت از جمله در 20 سال گذشته هم بوده. In the meantime, Mr. Durrani, we didn't want to free our country from the occupation of two superpowers and be controlled and occupied by another regional power, which is Pakistan. That's even worse because you do not expect this kind of action from your neighbors who are also having the same aspirations and religion and in some ways a lot of other common grounds. This is even worse. What is your response to that?
I don't know how to understand this particular point. I thought any country, any freedom-loving people would be happy that they not only got their freedom, but they could defeat two superpowers, in which Pakistan played, according to them, some role, according to me, some role. But if anyone thinks that after that it is now occupied by Pakistan, must get, Pakistan may have done, I've already said, many mistakes. But one thing is very clear, it was never going to get into Afghanistan as an occupying power. What happened to the country with powers like Britain was once upon a time a superpower, sole superpower actually. Russia was a superpower, Soviet Union. America certainly continues to be. If what happened to them, and after that, if a neighbor like Pakistan will not learn that lesson, that you don't want to go and occupy a troublesome country like Afghanistan, where people are going to make your stay very uncomfortable. No, Pakistan is no intention, has never had any intentions of occupying Afghanistan or becoming, another occupier. So I do not know how this question would ever come up, that the Afghans got rid of superpower occupation, and in the process, they have been occupied by a regional power, and that also not a very strong regional power.
سوالی بود که افغانستان نمیخواهد که از قید اشغال دو ابرقدرت خود خلاص کنه و در بند اشغال یک قدرت منطقوی قرار بگیره و نظر شما در این ارتباط چی است که پاکستان به عنوان یک قدرت منطقوی حالا در افغانستان یک نقش اشغالگر بازی میکنه؟ ایشون گفتن که خب ما با این نظر موافق نیستم و پاکستان از اشغال افغانستان توسط دو ابرقدرت و نتیجه که اونا گرفتن درس آموخته و ما هیچگاه به عنوان یک نیروی اشغالگر در افغانستان نقش بازی نکردیم و نمیکنیم. خود افغانستان امورات خود تعیین میکنه و اساساً با این سوال موافق نیستم. In regards to your lesson, which you said there is a saying that greed blinds people's wisdom. And because Afghanistan is such a very rich country in regards to so many natural resources and also its strategic position, there is a very high likelihood that yes, this kind of greediness is blinding peoples and even politicians, and for that matter, military generals' sight, and then they will face the same result as the other superpowers faced?
No, actually, you'll be surprised that as far as Pakistan is concerned, we look at Afghanistan as a more strategically in a much more crucial position. They also have results. The crossroad, the eastern crossroads of history of Toynbee is essentially most of the Afghanistan and very little part of the West. So one believes that the battle is usually about Afghanistan because it is such an important place. We may have some assets, but they are not enough. It's barely enough that one can, keep one's head over water, but certainly not enough to have such ambitions to go and start occupying countries in the region. We could not possibly think about that, but when it comes to Afghanistan, as I've already said, who in the right mind will go and try to occupy this very big quagmire, if you say? It's such a difficult place. How are we going to control that? We have a problem, taking care of our own country. No, it's not going to be there. If anything, remember, in the history, right from the history, there were wise people in Pakistan who used to say that the best arrangement of security in this area is a confederation between Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. It goes back to Ayub Khan's period when this idea came up. Bhutto took this idea to, So this was the, this was the desire, or this was the long-time vision of people here. Certainly not the occupation of them.
ولی سوالی بود که حرص و طمع چشم انسانها را و بنابراین سیاستمدارا و نظامی‌ها را کور می‌سازه و با توجه به اینکه افغانستان یک کشور دارای منابع متعدد و ثروت‌های نهفته هست، به نظر می‌رسد که پاکستان از شکست ابرقدرت‌ها در تاریخ افغانستان درس نیاموخته، به خاطر از اینکه طمعشان برانگیخته و در نتیجه با یک حرص و ولع می‌خواهند که اون سیاست توسعه طلبی را در افغانستان دنبال کنند. خلاصه ترجمه بود که نه اینطور نیست، ما اشغالگرام نیستیم و طمع هم نداریم، بلکه ما بخواهیم که امر سیاستی را که در زمان ذوالفقار علی بوتو طراحی شد و تعقیب شد به صورت نسبی همچنان ادامه بدیم که او تاکید بر همکاری‌های اقتصادی در ارتباط با پاکستان، افغانستان و ایران دارد و به این شکل ما می‌خواهیم که یک مسیری را طی کنیم که همه کشورها از او همکاری‌ها بهره مند شوند.
جناب آقای حسینی، قبل از اینکه استاد شهرانی صحبت کنم، شما بپرسین که روس‌ها و آمریکایی‌ها میگفتن ما اشغالگر نیستیم، ولی حضورشان محسوس است پاکستانی‌ها اکنون. شورای کویته، شورای پشاور در زمان 20 سال حاکمیت کرزی و غنی بر علیه حاکمیت رئیس جمهور کار میکردم و این تاریا که بیش از 100,000 کشته بر جای گذاشت از پاکستان تمویل میشد. ما گزارش بسیار دقیق داریم به عنوان مردم افغانستان با این مسائل کاملا واقف هستیم.
I would like to ask you in regards to the fact that what would be your response in regards to the fact that the Americans and the Russians also do not call themselves as occupiers. This is one point. And the other point is the Shura of Peshawar, the Council of Peshawar and the Council of Quetta belonging to the Taliban were residing in Pakistan, and thousands of suicide operators were operating from Pakistan inside Afghanistan, and during the 20 years of government of the former two presidents, Karzai and Ghani, there were lots of operations which were conducted from Pakistan. Don't you think this is also a kind of occupation? What is your response to this reality?
Very simple. I think I've done that. I do not know why the Russians, the Soviets, or the Americans would not call themselves occupier. Did they come to free that country from somewhere? Were they liberators? You come, occupy a country, your military presence is there, you control the policy, you are a bloody well occupier, there's nothing else. So no one is going to tell me that just since they don't want to be called occupiers, that I will accept their explanation. In fact, I have all the reasons to believe that they were trying to be, economic with the food. As far as the actions from Pakistani soil in Afghanistan were concerned, I've already said I do not know what all type of aid was given, but whatever was possible to, with which the resistance in Afghanistan could continue its operation, its fight, and ultimately succeed, that must have been done. To what extent, as far as suicide bombers are concerned, if they were considered as to be the legitimate tool, yes. As a military man, I do know what is a suicide bomber, what can it do. It's the best weapon system in the world is a human being. And if that human being decides that I'll have the explosives here and he maneuvers somewhere else, he will become very effective. They are the ones who make that sacrifice of their life, and in the process, they will probably take down 20 or 30 of the enemy troops. Now, that is the idea. But what the details are about that, I do not know. But in the principle, I've already said, we not only wanted to, but we must have done everything possible for the success of the resistance, for the success of the liberation fight by the Afghans.
این که امریکایی‌ها یا روسا خودشون اشغالگر محسوب نمیکنن، خب اون مربوط خودشون است، ولی از نظر ما اونا اشغالگر بودن. و در ارتباط با موضوع کسانی که با عملیات‌های انتحاری وارد عرصه مقاومت می‌شدن، از نظر ما به عنوان یک فرد حرفه‌ای نظامی بهترین اسلحه عامل انسان است که به عنوان یک فرد فداکار وارد عملیات میشه و خود با بمب مجهز میسازه و وارد کارزار شده و میخواهد که به حریف و طرف مقابل ضربه بزنه. در پاکستان هدفی بوده که مقاومت تقویه شود و این که اقدامات متعددی در این راستا صورت گرفت. من در جریان جزئیات کلی و اقدامات نیستم، ولی اما میفهمم که هدف حمایت از مقاومت در برابر اشغالگرا بوده و این به معنای آن نیست که ما یک نیروی اشغالگر هستیم.
پس انتحاری تایید شد، یعنی عملیات انتحاری توسط ایشان تایید شد.
So you approve the actions of suicide bombers.
I've said it is a technique of fighting war. They do not have aircrafts or guns. They have their bodies, their lives. They put it at a stake to harm the enemy. This is a technique of fighting. There's nothing immoral or moral. Would it be better for someone to go and drop a bomb and kill 50 of the villagers or people who are taking part in a wedding party? Or one soldier gets up with a gun and goes and kills 17 unarmed Afghans, as it happened? Would that be more acceptable to you people?
این جنگ است. در جنگ همچون مناسبات وجود داره. کسانی که فاقد تانک و طیاره هستند از همچون یک امکانات استفاده میکنن. درباره کسانی چی میگن که با طیاره میرن مثلا منازل مردم، عروسی های مردم بمباران میکنن؟ درباره کسانی چی میگن که مسلح با یک تفنگ هستن و میرن و افراد مختلف را به قتل میرسونن؟ در همچون موارد معنویت و اخلاقی وجود نداره دیگه.
تشکر استاد، میفهمید شما.
I just wanted to raise a small question. You earlier said that your interest after winning the war against the foreigners in Afghanistan is reconciliation. But during the war, has Pakistan not aggravated ethnic politics in Afghanistan by supporting only one group against many other groups in the country? And is that not a contradiction to promote at one stage conflict, essentially, differences between groups, and then after the war is over to try to reconciliate them? Is that possible? Has it been possible?
It was never on the ethnic basis. If you remember the 7 parties that resisted the Soviets,
6 of them were, the general said 6 of them were Pashtun groups from the south.
If there were more Pashtuns resisting, then more Pashtuns will get that. But if the Rabbani was also there and the Shia groups were also there, they were also getting their support. So anyone who resisted did get the support. If the Pashtuns were the majority, well, they happened to be one. But that was the only criterion. It was never the idea to promote any ethnic divide.
But were there no interest in Uzbeks wanting to fight? Did they not fight?
The Uzbeks were...
They were not allowed to have a place, and I know that for fact, in Peshawar or in Pakistan.
The Uzbeks at that time were led by Dostum. Jordani militia was on the side of the Soviets. And
yeah, but there were also Uzbeks fighting against them.
If there were Uzbek fighters, that the Mujahideen parties, they must have been members of some or the other Mujahideen
What about
party.
the last 20 years? All the so-called resistors were.
In the last 20 years, it was if the Taliban were basically Pashtun, they would get the support. But in due course, I have reasons to believe that some non-Pashtuns also got inducted. And you didn't expect us to say, no, but take out those non-Pashtuns, they will not be helped. Ethnic divide was not the idea. Now that's my answer.
Has the process aggravated ethnic politics in Afghanistan, and is that contributing to the reconciliation issues that you so much want to help in the country, or is it not?
I believe there has been a serious ethnic problem in Afghanistan, has always been. And they learned to live with it, and Pakistan was quite happy with that. And if they decide that today that this will happen, there are Pashtuns who are unhappy with the Taliban. So
indeed there are many of them.
There are.
Yeah. من سوالی را که از جان پرسیدم همین بود که خب اگر شما قبلا گفتین که ما در زمان جنگ تقویتی مقاومت میکنیم و بعد از جنگ بخواهیم که گروه های مختلف در افغانستان کنار بیایند، با هم یک جای شوند، مصلحت داشته باشند، حکومت فراگیر بسازند. آیا در زمان مقاومت که اگر شما فقط یک گروپی از گروه های مختلف را قومی، زبانی، هر چیزی که هست کمک میکنین، تقویت میکنین و اونا بر ضد دیگرها کارهایی را انجام میتن، آیا این خودش امکانی آوردن صلح و مصلحت در مابین گروپ های مختلف بعد از ختم جنگ ناممکن نمیسازه؟ جوابشان این است که ما این کار نکردیم. یعنی ما در پشاور 7 گروه بود، 6 تایش هر کی بود اقلا 1 تا غیر پشتون هم در مابین از اینا وجود داشت. ما گفتم چرا؟ یعنی ترک زبان ها آماده نبودن که نهاد خود داشته باشن در پشاور و برن مقاومت بکنن. نه میگن نه، دوستم در طرف کمونیستا بود و با اونا جنگ میکرد. من گفتم ما در برابر دوستم دیگرها هم بودن که بر ضدش جنگ میکردن و اونا میخواستن که نهادی جور بکنن که من معلومات دارم راجع به او، اما پاکستان اجازه نداد. و همچنان در زمان 20 سال گذشته فقط یک گروه بود که اینا میگن نه، در مابینش یگان تا غیر پشتون هم بود. خب به هر حال امی که این مشکل، آیا مشکلی مصلحت و مصالحه را بعد از جنگ مغلق میسازه نمیسازه؟ میگن بله، افغانستان مشکلی بسیار زیاد مغلق قومی داره و یا هویتی داره به هر حال و این مشکلی ساده نیست، مشکلی است که همیشه وجود داشته در افغانستان و این مشکل باید یک راه حل برش پیدا شود. اما نمیگن که چطوری امکان داره یا پیدا کردنش امکان داره یا نداره. به هر حال گپ هم اینجا ختم.
تشکر از مهمان گرامی جناب جنرال درانی، رئیس اسبق آیسای پاکستان و پروفسور نظیف شهرانی و دانشمند گرامی جناب آقای احمد حسینی. هموطنان گرامی، مهمانان خارجی را که دعوت میکنیم توجه داشته باشیم، اینجا دادگاه نیست که ما کسی را محکوم کنیم. اینکه سیاست های اون کشورها بیان میکنن، ما آگاه میشیم از نحوه تفکر اونها نسبت به جغرافی های خودمون. این آگاهی ما در تحلیل ما را کمک میکنه که بدانیم ما چگونه وضعیت داخلی، منطقه‌ای و جهانی را ارزیابی بکنیم و به یک تحلیل، یک تحقیق، یک نتیجه معقول، علمی و میدانی برسیم. هدف این است. امیدواریم بتوانیم با اندک بضاعت ما وسیله خدمت و تبیین روشنی و فرهنگی برای شما و هموطنان گرامی در سراسر جهان باشیم. بار دیگر از جناب آقای حسینی که زحمت ترجمه و همچنان کمک را با ما داشتن و حضور استاد محمد نظیف شهرانی و جناب جنرال درانی. سپاسگزارم.
General, thank you very much for being here with us, and we appreciate your frank discussion with us.